Welcome to our journey through Paraguay, a country where rich traditions, diverse cultures, and stunning landscapes come together. From the enduring legacy of the Guarani language to the vast expanse of the Gran Chaco, Paraguay offers a fascinating glimpse into a unique and vibrant nation. To begin with, we will talk about indigenous cultures and languages. So in Paraguay, Guarani, a member of the indigenous Tupi-Guarani language family, is spoken by over 90% of the population. No other Western Hemisphere nation has such a large proportion of the population speaking indigenous language. This is particularly notable since Paraguay's indigenous groups now account for only a minuscule part of the nation's population, perhaps 1%. In Paraguay, as in other Spanish colonies, the conquerors and subsequent colonists interbred with native women. Their offspring, known as mestizos, represented a mixture of European and indigenous gene pools. Eventually, mestizos became the dominant groups in Paraguay. However, other exchanges occurred, including the adoption of indigenous farming practices and foods, but the most remarkable was the enduring use of the natives' language, Guarani. As a consequence, Guarani is the primary language of most Paraguayans. Along with Spanish, it is codified in the country's constitution as a national language and is also taught in all public schools. For most Paraguayans, it is spoken in the home, on the street, and in many business situations. However, almost all Paraguayans are fully bilingual in Guarani and Spanish. The cultural context of indigenous language use in both Guatemala and Bolivia, however, is different from that in Paraguay. In Paraguay, Guarani is widely spoken by all social classes, from the streets of the national's capital to remote rural villages, and no social stigma is associated with its use.
Mennonite settlers of Paraguay. The Mennonite settlers are Anabaptists who follow Christian theology that calls for adult baptism instead of a child baptism. The men usually dress in blue denim overalls and wide-brimmed hats, and the women wear plain dresses and bonnets, and both speak Low German. The Mennonites' unorthodox religious views brought them under repeated scrutinization and harassment in Europe where they resided, more specifically in Holland and Switzerland in 1500s. They first came to Canada. However, the Canadian government refused to allow the Mennonites to continue to live in isolation from the mainstream Canadian society. They had also banned German language from the education in Mennonite schools and demanded their men provide military service for the country. However, Paraguay welcomed the immigrants and saw them as means of establishing a firm Paraguayan hold on the Chaco, and so they settled in Latin America, mostly in Paraguay in 1927. In return, Paraguay granted Mennonites broad rights of independence within their colony under an agreement called the Privilegium, a legal concession granting them religious liberty, total control over their schools, and exemption from the military service in recognition of their belief in pacifism and nonviolence. Additionally, 2 other Mennonite colonies were founded. The first colony were refugees from the Soviet Union in early 1930s, and the second were German Mennonites from the Ukraine in 1947. Mennonites in Paraguay helped a lot in the agriculture of this region. Their agricultural practices have proven sound as well as productive. The Mennonites supplied about half of Paraguay's dairy products, including milk, cheese, yogurt, and butter, as well as 10% of the meat consumed nationally. Other crops included cotton, cash crops for colonies, and peanuts. Alcohol and tobacco were sold openly in Mennonite towns, even though only non-Mennonites consumed them. Paraguay was the only country in Latin America that allowed Mennonites to live the way they wanted to, allowing them social and religious autonomy and economic opportunity.
Geography and climate of the Gran Chaco. A cornerstone of Paraguay's geographic character is the Gran Chaco, a vast interior lowland with portions extending into neighboring Argentina and Bolivia. It covers over half of Paraguay's total land area, and the population of the Paraguayan Chaco is approximately 60,000 inhabitants, which accounts for approximately 1% of the country's total population. The Paraguayan Chaco's most significant urban center is Mariscal Estigarribia. Elevations range from 500 meters in the west to around 50 meters in the east. There are 4 permanent rivers, the Rio Dolce, Rio Salado, Rio Bermejo, and the Rio Pilcomayo. There's a subtropical climate with arid conditions that intensify to the west. Precipitation varies, with the east boasting a rate between 1,300 and 1,400 millimeters per year and 500 in the western portion. Peak rainfall occurs during the summer season from October through April. Temperature during the summer has been known to cap in the high 30s, whereas lows in the winter can sink down to the low 20s. Owing to its interior location uninsulated by the ocean or sea, the Chaco exemplifies the phenomenon of climatic continentality, experiencing greater seasonal fluctuation in temperature. The Chaco is influenced by 2 temperature gradients, one running from south to north and the other from east to west. Traditionally, logging of white and red quebracho were lucrative industries. Since then, the economy has diversified. While Paraguay continues to harvest quebracho, the region has branched out into activities such as cattle raising and agriculture, the latter being especially influenced by the cultivation of cotton, a popular crop in the Paraguayan Chaco, along with the Mennonite population's growing of peanuts. From the rich biodiversity of the Gran Chaco to its vibrant cultural traditions from the Mennonite and the indigenous population, Paraguay blends history and modernity in remarkable ways. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the heart of Paraguay.